My last year at uni, I lived in a 4-bedroom house with a ground floor, then 2 floors with 2 bedrooms each. My friends had the first floor bedrooms, I was on the second floor, and the bedroom next to me was empty because the guy who had rented it was staying with his girlfriend. I don't think he ever slept there. My bedroom and his had small crawl-space cupboards in the corners. I come home from uni one day to find my friends discussing noises sounding like footsteps that they've heard from my floor at night when I was asleep. I laugh because apparently these noises are loud and I have heard nothing. Because I don't believe them, I offer to go look at the crawl spaces. We go upstairs, I open the door of the empty room, and right as I open the door to the crawl space in the other corner of the room slams shut. We freak out. There's no reason for that door to have been open in the first place. So we grab kitchen knives, hole up in one of their rooms, and wait for a friend to come and check the cupboards and attic. We never found out what those noises were, but it was the scariest thing that happened the whole year we were there. I used to work in a nursing home where I cared for dementia patients. Every patient on the hall I worked on would steal spoons from dinner to give to the kids because they like shiny things. It got to the point where once a week I'd have to go through everyone's room to take back the spoons. I asked the patients about the kids many times but never got a good answer. I'd hear things like, "They just live here," or "They stand outside in the snow and look in the windows," or "They're my friends who visit." Wouldn't be so weird if they all didn't do it, but it was everyone, the ones who were still capable of speaking anyways. One time at 3 a.m., one of my patients started screaming, so I ran in her room and found her laying in bed, seemingly fine. I asked what was wrong, and she said, "That boy is here again and won't get out of my closet. I'm scared." Like me too, Dolores, what the heck? My sister and I had a feeling our mom was going to die. She had some problems. But she still meant the world to us. Around 3 days later, she was driving drunk and on her phone trying to dial my dad's number without a seatbelt, and she went off the road and died. Her airbags never went off. The worst part about this is that my sister, almost 20 now, and I, 27, both saw in our heads exactly how she died and what happened during the accident, and it was severely disturbing. It was a single car accident, so no one else was involved. We saw this after she died, about 2 or 3 days after, like a vision, and I read the autopsy report a few months back. What my sister and I saw in our heads was exactly what happened to her, down to a T for the most part, minus a few minor details. We were on the outs, so I wasn't answering her messages before this happened. We were arguing about something stupid a few days prior. This happened 11 months ago, and I was 8 months pregnant with her first grandchild at the time. Was delivering newspapers on my paper route when a longtime customer pulled his car next to me and asked me to just give him his daily newspaper now because he was going on a long trip. I handed him his newspaper, then skipped his house as I continued my route. The next day I was collecting the weekly fees. You used to have to go collect the money back then, no internet payment yet, and I went to his house to collect my fee. His wife answers and promptly complains that I missed her house on my deliveries the day before. I explained to her that her husband pulled up next to me. I told her what he said, and that I gave him the paper. She started crying, told me that he had died a couple weeks ago, and it was obviously not possible that I spoke with her husband the day before. I know what I saw, and nearly 30 years later, I still think about that situation. I have no way to logically explain what happened, and it still gives me the creeps. Driving home from work late one night, I was followed, and it was weird. I left the hospital and turned off the main road to a bunch of side streets I would take. At one point, I noticed a car behind me that made the same left turn as me. They sped up to get behind me. I thought nothing of it. Then I briefly thought about running to 7-Eleven to grab some food and turned on my right signal. But I realized I had food at home, so I turned my signal off. The car behind me turned on their right signal and turned it off as well exactly as I had. At that point, I got a bit spooked. So I turned my right signal on and they did as well. Instead, at the next intersection, I turned left, even though my right signal was on. They did as well. They proceeded to follow me through a series of odd turns. Eventually, I turned onto a cul-de-sac I knew about and figured I could turn around there and look at the driver to see who was following me. As I approached the end of the road, they figured out what I was doing. They stopped and did a fast K-turn and sped off. It was weird. Still don't know who it was.
A few years ago, I was at my lowest point in life. Several people close to me had passed away unexpectedly. I was being bullied every day at my job. My life was falling apart. I was past being depressed. I just couldn't imagine waking up another day. So I'd planned my suicide, bought a one-way plane ticket, got sleeping pills, and wrote a series of suicide notes. On the day I was to fly out to fulfill my plan, there was a terrible accident on the freeway to the airport. It was shut down both ways. So I drove into a nearby pub to have a beer and wait out the traffic. The second I sat on the patio with my drink, a gentleman asked if he could sit with me. Whatever, I thought, sure, who cares? He told me that whatever I was doing next was a terrible idea, and I would regret it. I thought, who is this random fucker? But I listened. He said that he sensed I was in pain, but that I had an incredible life ahead of me, and that this was not the way my story was supposed to end. Again, I'd never met this guy in my life, and hadn't mentioned a word to him about my plan. He asked me to hand him my keys and my wallet, and he'd give them back to me after I talked and he listened. I poured my heart out to this random guy, told him all my traumas and pains in life and why I was heading to the airport on a one-way ticket to kill myself in a cemetery across the country where my family was buried. He just listened, and then he pulled out a lighter. Asked me to pull out my suicide letters and help me burn them. He told me I was worth so much to the world and that after I finished my drink, I needed to head home and get some sleep. He told me I was going to be okay tomorrow, and I believed him. He then gave me my keys and wallet back. I left that afternoon and went home, hugged my family, got some sleep, and the next day I started working on myself, finding a therapist, a new job. Years later, I'm in a fantastic place in life, so far from where I was that day. To this day, no one in my life knows how close I came to killing myself. But this random stranger just somehow understood me and saved my life. I never saw him again. I don't even know his name. It's the most unexplained thing that has ever happened to me, and I think about that guy every day. So, thank you, kind stranger, for saving my life that random September day on a pub patio.